so much better. Oh, but I'm so damn stupid. Girl, I love you. Oh, you were there, you were by my side, you were on my mind. Oh, I didn't trust you, but now I see why you left me here. Ooh, God, baby, ain't long. Ooh, God, not to see that I've been trying, really trying, baby. I know you're crying, all this night, baby. Touching physio, unique moon, go back, sagwazi,
Channel Africa and you have got something in common. The thirst for knowledge.
Good afternoon and welcome to Africa Update on Channel Africa, the African perspective, where we meet and look at the latest in news, current affairs and sports. I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu, together in studio with Matapelo Mahapi, Mosobudi Makura and Chanduko Ligege. Coming up in this hour,
prominent Congolese opposition leaders who had been invited to attend the peace and security dialogue in South Africa have blamed their government for preventing them from traveling.
The Democratic Republic of Congo has been accused of blocking opposition leaders from attending the second edition of the African Peace and Security Dialogue in South Africa and
This restaurant used to be like my office. I used to come to this place. It is a calm spot and suitable for working.
And journalists returning to Khartoum find homes and newsrooms damaged and abandoned. But first, the news with Matapelo, followed by the sports headlines with Musubudi.
SABC News. The African perspective.
Thank you, Nhlanhla, and good afternoon. Starting with this story, Mali's transitional government has filed a case against Algeria at the International Court of Justice, accusing its neighbor of aggression for shooting down a Malian military reconnaissance drone. Mali said Algeria deliberately shot down its drone along their shared desert border during the night of the 31st of March until the 1st of April near Tizawanten in Mali's Kidal region, alleging the downing was intended to hinder operations by Malian forces against armed groups. Mali described the incident as a hostile act and a violation of the principle of non-use of force, and added it had repeatedly asked Algerian authorities to provide evidence that the drone violated Algerian airspace but had received no response. Algeria's foreign ministry could not immediately be reached for comment. And Premier of South Africa's Gauteng province, Panyaza Lesufi, says that they hope to draw lessons from the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry to ensure that there is no political interference in the newly planned political killings TOS team. Now, on Wednesday, Lesufi announced plans to establish the TOS team, which will investigate politically motivated murders in the province dating back to 2010. He says that the decision followed an observation that there is a coordinated syndicate that is targeting government officials in Gauteng. Lesufi says that the province will ensure that the team is well-resourced to effectively carry out its duties.
What excites me is that it's in parallel with the commission. It's going to run parallel with the parliament that is dealing with this matter, which simply means that we are going to draw lessons from institutions, and therefore it will serve as a guide But we're very clear. Let's have terms of references that are acceptable to all of us, and let's have the resources that are needed clearly identified so that people must not be constrained because they don't have resources. And thirdly, it should be in a position to insulate itself from unnecessary influence or bias.
And South African Afrikaner interest organizations, AfriForum and the Southern African Agri-Initiative, SAAI, have called on countries worldwide to impose targeted sanctions against economic freedom fighters leader Julius Malema. The opposition leader was found guilty of hate speech by the country's Equality Court last month over comments he made during a political rally in 2022. This was the third such ruling for the frequently outspoken and controversial leader of the left-wing party. Now, the Afrikaner lobby grouping says that the latest campaigns against Malema is to continue the fight against the Kill the Boer chant, and Stefan Zale is the head of the public relations at AfriForum.
There's many court cases and different campaigns and stories attached to Mr. Malema. But with this campaign in particular, that is a call from AfriForum and SAI for further international repercussions for Julius Malema for, among other things, inciting violence against minorities in South Africa. And this comes after many years of Julius Malema getting away with hate speech with impunity.
A new Ebola outbreak has been declared in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Health officials say 28 suspected cases and 15 deaths have been reported in Kasai province, including 4 health workers. The BBC's Richard Kagoe has the details.
Tests confirm the Zaire strain of Ebola, a rare but often deadly disease. The World Health Organization says investigations are underway in the affected areas where patients have shown symptoms including fever, vomiting and diarrhea. It warns case numbers are likely to rise as transmission continues. The WHO is also delivering supplies, including protective gear and mobile lab equipment, to strengthen surveillance, treatment and infection control at health facilities.
And the Thai Parliament is meeting to vote in a new Prime Minister. It comes a week after the incumbent Paetongtarn Shinawatra was dismissed by the Constitutional Court. Former Deputy Prime Minister Anutin Shanvarikul, who leads the third largest party, is said to become the next Prime Minister. The BBC's Jonathan Head has the details.
He has done a deal with the Progressives. They are not ideological bedfellows at all. They've never liked each other in the past. And the Progressive Party is doing this largely because they fear they could get something worse, like the return of a military-style leader if they don't back Anutin. So what they've agreed to do is to support him to form a government, to support a budget, but they're demanding that he call an election within 4 months. I doubt he likes that. I'm sure he'd want a lot longer to make his mark as Prime Minister, but that's the deal we believe he signed up to.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I am Matapela Mahape.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this summer, the African World Cup qualifiers are officially in full swing, while the US Open women's final has now been set. I'll have details of these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
We're broadcasting live from Auckland Park in Johannesburg, South Africa. We are on the DSTV audio bouquet 802 on Open View on channel 628, and you can live stream us on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app available on the Google and Apple Play stores. You can also join in the conversation by finding us on X at Channel Africa, numerical 1, Facebook at Channel Africa, Instagram at Channel Africa 1. You can also subscribe on the YouTube channel. Our question for today on Africa Update asks, the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund in South Africa is on a drive to tackle digital child safety. How should parents and those in authority protect children from harmful online content? You can send us your comments and voice notes to our WhatsApp number to +2763 406 9126.
We are on Open View's audio bouquet. Channel 628. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Opposition figures in the Democratic Republic of Congo have accused their government of blocking them from attending the second edition of the African and Peace Security Dialogue in South Africa. The dialogue, organized by the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, has stirred controversy in the DRC, with senior government officials describing it as an informal meeting that serves foreign interests. SABC correspondent Chris Onkamira has more from Kinshasa.
Prominent Congolese opposition leaders who had been invited to attend the Peace and Security Dialogue in South Africa have blamed their government for preventing them from traveling. The leader of the Social Movement for Renewal Party, Jean-Claude Kibala, says his passport was confiscated by immigration officials for no clear reason. Another opposition leader, Jean-Marc Kabun, says he was denied a visa on the orders of the DRC government. Former DRC Prime Minister Matata Ponyo, who now leads an opposition party, also said his members failed to get passports to travel for the conference that began on Wednesday. Congolese authorities have not made any official reaction to the allegations yet, but President Felix Tshisekedi recently said he will not endorse any dialogue outside his country other than the one brokered by the US and Qatar. Kinshasa authorities regard Thabo Mbeki as a supporter of the M23 rebels for his previous statements about the conflict in eastern DRC. Mr. Mbeki was very critical of the deployment of South African troops to eastern DRC in 2023 to help the DRC army fight the M23 rebels. The rebels say their delegates are attending the conference in South Africa. The peace conference seeks to provide a platform for dialogue among the key stakeholders in the DRC's armed conflict. It is rooted in Thabo Mbeki's vision of finding homegrown solutions to African problems. Chris Ochamringa, SABC News, Kinshasa.
Meanwhile, in South Africa, the Peace and Security Dialogue has entered its second day, the focus on the conflict in the DRC. We are now crossing live to the Mount Grace Hotel and Spa in Magaliesburg, where we are joined by Patrice Majondo Mwamba, a concerned citizen who's attending the dialogue. Mr. Mwamba, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you so much for having me.
As a concerned citizen, what are some of your concerns and what do you believe are the root causes of the ongoing conflict in the DRC?
Well, I mean, I think we all know the root causes of the issue is really the potential minerals that we have in a specific region in the east of the DRC. But also the African population have reached a maturity in which that we can actually sit at the table as grown-up, as responsible, and talk up about the issues and find solutions that can be of a positive outcome, and of course be profitable to our beloved citizen and our beloved land.
And how has the presence of armed groups and foreign interventions impacted the local communities in the DRC, particularly in conflict-prone areas like North Kivu and Ituri?
I mean, having armed groups in those regions created some type of insecurity. But for what I'm hearing also is, for instance, these areas that M23 have conquered so far have gone to quite a serious management system in which the structure is being put in place is allowing people to be a little bit more safer than they were before. But again, I think this is not the point that we should focus on. I do believe that today, as a concerned Congolese, but I'm not just a concerned Congolese, I was a former presidential candidate at the last election, 2023. I do believe that the most important point that we should focus on is what can we do as Congolese, as also as human, together that can alleviate this issue that's been ongoing for now over 25 years. It's not normal that today, in the 21st century, 2025, we are still, having such issue. So I do believe and I do support strongly the initiative of His Excellency President Thabo Mbeki. And I do believe that this opportunity to gather not just Congolese, for your understanding, in Harrisburg today there is many, different type of people. There is a former African leaders president. there is a current diplomat, a former diplomat, and we all come together to actually exchange and see what could be the best path forward, so we can accomplish and obtain a positive outcome.
And what role do you think regional actors and neighboring countries should be playing in resolving the crisis in the DRC?
But as we say in Africa, it takes a village to raise a kid. you know. So I think it's very important to have our peers, our brothers and sisters from the region and from the continent to be a part of this. And together, two eyes are better than one. Together we can perhaps find the way forward. I do support, and that's the reason why I accept the invitation of His Excellency former President Thabo Mbeki to come here. I do support that with that dialogue, an inclusive dialogue, not exclusive, but inclusive, and I'm insisting on that. I do believe that we have to have an inclusive dialogue in order for us to be able to have something that's going to be sustained in time. As you know very well, I'm not giving you any intel here. We've got many dialogue that took place in Doha and many other places, but they haven't come into a very clear, positive path because of many things are missing. But again, I do strongly believe that with such initiative such as the one we are currently here, we can actually, it's giving us a better opportunity and better chance to actually obtain a success. Meaning by that is, for instance, His Excellency President Thabo Mbeki is well known across the continent. His work and his advocating for peace have started in this country, in South Africa. He has fought alongside icons such as the late Nelson Mandela and many other big figures of the continent that have advocated for independency of Africa and of course for peace. So I do believe that we can learn quite a bit of things from individuals that have been proving on the ground, have been proving with a quite big, credit of credibilities when it comes to actually being instrumental in finding positive solutions on a continent.
And has there been any promising proposals or commitments from leaders or civil society that could help bring sustainable peace to the region, particularly at this peace and security dialogue underway?
There is a side meetings that's taking place amongst also, different, groups of Congolese citizens that came or attending this event today. And I do believe that at the end of this peace dialogue, we will be issuing some type of common statement that's going to be perhaps showing the way forward in terms of how do we foresee this peace dialogue going forward. But please, Madam, I want to insist that it's very, very important that, and again, this is my strong belief, that we have an inclusive dialogue. Every single Congolese have to have the opportunity to come to the table to articulate what they need to articulate and to add whatever adding value they have to the table that can enable us to go forward. Because, as I say, we cannot we cannot hope getting any kind of substantial in time if there is only one side or one group of the continent or of the country being involved into this talk. So again, this is an amazing platform for us to be able, number one, to meet, number two, to be able to exchange and talk, and number three, to actually cohesively decide of what will be the next step together.
Just on that, being an inclusive dialogue, what do you know about opposition parties being barred from attending this dialogue?
Well, I mean, listen, I've heard that just like you, I've heard and I read the news, but my understanding was that they were not banned. For what I heard is the South African embassy in Kinshasa were not able to issue the visa in time, for what I heard. But again, Madam, please, let's focus on the topic and let's focus on really the issue. These things, I know sometimes there is complexity that come into place, but I do believe even the opposition leaders that were not able to be physically here, I know for a fact that there is difference that they can communicate. But again, we have to really, after this peace talk, we need to have a cohesive and a common understanding of how we're going to go forward and actually include all the leaders of the DRC at the table so we can cohesively agree to finally cease this conflict that's been ongoing for too long, far too long, and the recipient of this atrocity of our brothers and sisters, mostly in the east of the DRC.
And what are the expectations of ordinary Congolese citizens from this dialogue?
Well, they're looking for peace. Congolese citizens are tired. They've been forgotten by the international community. Obviously, it's not explicable that one conflict has lasted for so long. They've been forgotten. This is the sentiment that I know for a fact many of them feel. So it's our responsibilities as a citizen, also as human, to do our very best to actually find a solution and put an end to this atrocity that's been lasting for too long. And we do understand and we do know the solution. We also know very well the issue, obviously, because we are in the middle of it. So I do believe that the hardest and very challenging part is to understand and have a cohesive accord of, how can we implement the solutions that we know. That's to me the biggest challenge. How can we implement these solutions? Because it's quite interesting how it seems like we are recycling ourselves for so many reasons, because so many people have met in many places, but again, we're having a hard time to implement these solutions. And I do believe that today, from this platform and the peace dialogue, led by His Excellency President Thabo Mbeki, it can give us, the next steps for us to actually being able to a common accord to come together and decide that this will be the way for us to actually implement some of these solutions going forward. But it's imperative. Time is not our best friend for such moment. Where by the day, as I talk to you, there is people somewhere somehow east of the DRC dying. And we should not take that lightly. We have to put an emphasis and make it a priority for us as a human.
And as we wrap up our conversation, Mr. Mwamba, finally, what message would you like to send to the Congolese diaspora and the broader international audience on how they can contribute to peace in the DRC?
Well, thank you so much for this specific question. And today, as I've said earlier, I'm a former presidential candidate, but today I come here as a simple, concerned Congolese. And I do strongly believe that there is many and plenty of dear brothers of mine and sisters of mine, Congolese citizens across the world. They want to see the country actually, go to the next stage of its development. And I do encourage, every single one of my dear brothers and sisters, Congolese citizens and African across the universe to actually do whatever they can in their level, in the position, in their way to actually move this development and this peace talk amongst Congolese and amongst African peers, So there is no limitation of what men can do, Quite often on the continent, we love to put arrows, in people. But, when it comes to times like this one, issues like this one, I do believe that every single citizen is actually his own leader in his own right. So please, my message to my fellow, Congolese citizen across the universe, across the world is let's come together. Let's finally decide to really, ultimately make this ongoing conflict, put an end to it. And let's be the change that we actually have been talking about, We all have been talking about the change for so many years. But today, with the international and world ecosystem, the shift that's taking place all over the world, I do believe that this is an amazing timing for us Congolese to really, show up for the showdown, So this is the moment. So please, let's not be shy. Let's be involved. We only have one Congo. We only have one Africa. And no one will come save us beside, and only us can save ourselves. So please, let's believe in ourselves. Let's have the confidence and let's be the change that we're all talking about.
We'll leave it there, Mr. Mwamba. Thank you so much for taking your time and talking to us on Africa Update.
Many thanks. Thank you so much for having me, and much blessings to you guys.
That was Patrick Majondo Mwamba, a concerned citizen who's attending the dialogue currently underway in Magaliesburg, South Africa.
This September, Channel Africa celebrates Heritage Month, a time to honor the stories, the rhythms, and the languages that make us who we are. Whether you're in Lagos or the shores of Zanzibar, to the mountains of Lesotho or the markets of Dakar, we are united in diversity.
Najivunia kuwa Mwafrika.
Kukondolera Afrika ndiye nduwake.
Proudly African and fabulous.
Let us preserve our languages. Let's embrace our uniqueness. Let's embrace our cultures and celebrate the beauty of our continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
It is 12:24 Central African Time. You're listening to Africa Update on Channel Africa. My name is Nhlanhla Mahlangu, standing in for Lulu Gabu. A land dispute in northern Ghana has killed at least 31 people and displaced nearly 50,000 others. The conflict, which started last month, has forced more than 13,000 Ghanaians to seek refuge in neighboring Cote d'Ivoire. For more on this, we are joined on the line by our correspondent in Ghana, Eric Mawena Egbeta. Eric, thank you so much for taking your time and joining us on Africa Update.
A pleasure to be here as well.
Tell us more about this land dispute.
So what we know, quite interestingly, is that it's a small parcel of land where there are two feuding factions claiming ownership of this land. As to what caused the recent degeneration and the escalation of the conflicts to result in the displacement of over 50,000 people, that continues to remain unclear, quite strangely. But if you know northern Ghana very well, you know that it's been prone and susceptible to communal clashes over land disputes and chieftaincy. And so that's where a lot of people just believe that it is much of the same which has existed for quite a while, which has resurrected. There's been efforts in the initial stages when the dispute started in the Sola Tuna Kauba area. These are 3 towns and just a very small parcel of land, resulting in this dispute in the Savannah region of the country. That's the president's home region as well, and so there's been a directive from the president, amongst many other things, for all the security couples to find a solution to the matter. In fact, somewhere last week, just before the month of August ended, all the top security chiefs, including the Interior Minister, the IGP, the Chief of Defense Staff, and all respective security heads were in the township seeking to get an understanding as to what's happened and proffer solutions as to what can be done. We haven't seen a lot of the action outside of a reinforcement of the police presence, but if you know the entire landscape, the roads are not so great, and so it hasn't aided in helping the police to be able to cover as much ground as they can, in terms of surveying the area. There was an initial curfew which was announced, a 6 to 6 curfew. That doesn't appear to have done much in terms of being able to help the situation, and that's why we're seeing a lot more of persons fleeing the area. In fact, last week thereabout, when some of the persons were fleeing aboard a canoe from one of the towns, they unfortunately drowned, and so the death toll is well in excess of the 30 that you mentioned as well. But official figures are yet to come through. But every now and then, we get reports from up there that somebody may have died as a result of that conflict, and now we know that 13,000 plus individuals are in a neighboring Ivory Coast. The Interior Minister says that the Ghanaian authorities are in touch with their Ivorian counterparts, and that's why they have that number. I'm sure there'll be a ratification of a lot more of persons who are fleeing the conflict to Ivory Coast seeking shelter, amongst many other things.
Now, Eric, as we head to the news headlines, what do we know about the private developer who brought the piece of land, and what have authorities done to try and restore calm so far?
In terms of what has been done to restore calm, that has faced a lot of criticism, because the initial stages, what we know is that there was the reinforcement of the police service in that area. Over 100 men were taken to the area to enforce peace, amongst many other things. A lot of analysts and a lot of Ghanaians have been critical of the efforts by the Ghana Police Service and the Interior Ministry, because there was just a by-election on the 2nd of September, and over 5,000 police personnel were deployed to police that by-election. And so many are asking questions why similar numbers are not being taken to the area to restore peace, if such a number can be deployed, and the heavy police artillery which was deployed to police a by-election cannot be taken then. So in terms of the effort, yes, some action has been taken, but that's coming under very heavy criticism, even though the security chiefs have gone there. On the developer and the actions, that has yet to take effect, because when that developer sought to take over the land, that's what resulted in all of this conflict, and we're seeing a lot of the dead. There hasn't been confirmation as to whether or not he is going or reneging on his commitment to proceed with his initial intention. Reason why perhaps we're continuing to have a lot more of the deaths and a lot more of the persons fleeing, because now there are a lot of fears of reprisal attack after one group had killed another is seeking to retaliate, amongst many other things. And so in terms of the efforts generally, a lot of people say enough has not been seen.
Enough has not been seen, Eric. Unfortunately, we've run out of time and we have to head over to the news desk now. But I really do thank you for taking your time and just giving us an update on this land dispute that has killed so many people in northern Ghana. Thank you so much for your time, Eric.
You're welcome.
That was our correspondent in Ghana, Eric Mawena Egbeta. It's now time for news headlines.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Nhlanhla. Headlines this hour. Mali's transitional government accuses Algeria of aggression for shooting down a Malian military reconnaissance drone, claiming it was intended to hinder Malawian forces against armed groups. And aid workers on donkeys have delivered the first humanitarian supplies to survivors of a landslide that reportedly killed hundreds of people in a remote mountain village in Sudan's western Darfur region. And a bus that plunged 300 meters into a ravine in Sri Lanka has claimed 15 lives and injured 18 others. More details on these and other stories at top of the hour.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Musibu Di Makura with your latest sports news at the Sawa. We'll start with cricket news. Now, Proteas batter Matthew Britsky has credited coach Shukri Conrad for the direction as well as the clear goals he set for the team following their 5-run win over England in the second ODI at Lord's last night. Now, this win also marked the second ODI series triumph in as many weeks achieved with a match to spare. Although Britsky missed the first match on Tuesday due to a hamstring injury, he returned to the team with a match-winning 85 of 77 balls as South Africa posted 330 for the loss of 8 in the 50 allotted overs. Now, he notes that Conrad's leadership, together with the momentum from the World Test Championship win 3 months ago, has significantly boosted the squad's confidence. Take a listen.
I think it starts at the top with Conrad. I think the sort of selections he's making and the direction he's wanting to go with the team He's very clear on what he wants, and there's no sort of grey area, so guys are feeling really comfortable where they are and they know where they stand. So I think that's to start, and winning that Test Championship final has just breeded another sort of confidence in this change room, so it's good.
On to football news now. Bafana head coach Hugo Broos will be aiming to complete a full circle by guiding the national team to the FIFA World Cup in the USA, Canada as well as Mexico next year. Now, the Belgian coach played in the World Cup in Mexico back in 1986. Victory over Lesotho at the Free State Stadium in a Group C encounter later on tonight in the Free State province will take Broos and his team a step closer to realizing that dream.
40 years ago, it will be 40 years next year that I did the World Championship in Mexico as a player. It should be fantastic to do it as a trainer 40 years later. And I said it already before, this is my last job as a coach. I'm 73. I'm not going on till I'm 80. So, yeah, it should be a nice moment to stop. And I'm really very motivated, and also my team, to achieve that.
Now, Broos will also be hoping to join a distinguished list of coaches who played at a FIFA World Cup as a player and also coached on the global stage. He says he wants to end his career on a high.
We all know that the next two games can maybe, with a little bit luck, can maybe the final step to qualification to the World Cup. So from our side, we are very motivated to play the game of tomorrow and try to win it. At the other side, we also know that Lesotho is also always a very tough opponent.
All right, so kickoff for tonight's game is at 6 p.m. Central African time. Bafana, of course, looking for a positive result out of this game against the Igwenas Lesotho. On to this now. Former world champions Mike Tyson as well as Floyd Mayweather are set to compete in an exhibition bout next year. The event will be put on the CSI Sports, Fight Sports, but details regarding the date, location and broadcasters as well as rules are yet to be announced. Tyson is 59 years of age and is a former undisputed heavyweight champion, while Mayweather is 48 years of age and retired undefeated after 50 fights, winning multiple titles across a number of weight divisions. Now, Tyson is competing for the very first time since ending his 19-year-old retirement in November in a controversial defeat by YouTuber Jake Paul. He spent the entirety of his career, which yielded 50 wins from 59 fights at heavyweight, while the latter stages of Mayweather's career were at welterweight. And finally, in Formula One news, Lewis Hamilton says his 5-place grid penalty for the Italian Grand Prix gives him more to fight for at his first race at Monza in Ferrari. Now, the 7-time champion was given a penalty for not slowing sufficiently for yellow flags on the reconsigned laps of to the grid before Sunday's Dutch Grand Prix. Hamilton as well as teammate Charles Leclerc both crashed out at Zandvoort, but the Brits' penalty was not decided until after the race. Hamilton says he was shocked to find out that he had a penalty following that race. Well, it concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, don't forget to send us an email. That's to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Alternatively, give us a call. The newsroom line is +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Darubini ya Afrika na I am Henry Shakif.
Dar es Salaam siku ya leo ni ya kijani.
Ya kabisa, Tanzania nzima macho ni hapa, na mkutano wa leo umeshika karibu 90% ya vyombo vyote vya habari. Niko hapa kusubiri kusikia ni kitu gani hasa ambacho CCM itakisema katika siku ya kwanza ya grand opening ya uzinduzi wa kampeni zake kitaifa.
Rais wa Tanzania Samia Suluhu Hassan ameidhinishwa kuwania kiti cha urais katika uchaguzi utakaofanyika Oktoba 29 mwaka huu na tume ya uchaguzi. Hili unalizungumzia vipi?
Ila kwanza lilitarajiwa, ni jambo liko wazi kwa sababu Rais Samia ndiye aliyepata idhini ya kuteuliwa na Chama cha Mapinduzi kupeperusha bendera ya chama.
Darubini ya Afrika 11 kamili hadi 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
A very good afternoon with your business update. I am Chanduko Ligege. Zimbabwe can start exporting blueberries to China after it agreed a protocol on phytosanitary standards. The agreement was concluded during Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa's visit to China this week, where he met President Xi Jinping during commemorations to mark 80 years since Japan's defeat at the end of World War II. Zimbabwe's Horticultural Development Council says the agreement opens the door for local growers to expand into one of the world's fastest growing blueberry markets. South Africa's Deputy President Paul Mashatile has called on farmers to negotiate with government so that more land is made accessible to more people through the land reform program. Mashatile was in the Overberg district in the Western Cape province to look at the government's efforts to fast-track land reform. He has called on the commercial farmers to cooperate with government on its transformation agenda.
There must be negotiations, engagement, and by the way, government does buy land. We have been doing so, and we're going to continue to do that. So let's negotiate. Parliament has passed a law to allow government to expropriate land for public use. But in most cases, that's not our starting point.
Jewelry and diamonds company Fine Star is launching a new diamond manufacturing facility at the R Tambo Special Economic Zone in Johannesburg, South Africa. The event, presided over by Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe, is expected to boost South Africa's diamond beneficiation drive and strengthen the country's position in the global jewelry industry. Chief Executive Officer Prince Mbetse.
We have now come to a bigger facility, and we are excited that everyone has come to support us. The minister himself is here, and other well-wishers that have gathered here today to be with us. And we are happy for this celebration, and we hope everybody is going to enjoy themselves.
Top Indian refiner Indian Oil Corporation has skipped the purchase of U.S. oil in its latest tender and instead bought 2 million barrels of West African and 1 million barrels of Middle Eastern grade. The state refiner also bought 1 million barrels each of Nigerian oil grades Agbami and Usan from French oil major Total Energy and another 1 million barrels of Abu Dhabi's Das crude from Shell. Nigerian oil has been bought on free on-board basis and Das has been purchased on a delivered basis for arrival at Indian ports in late October, early November. And U.S. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to lower tariffs on Japanese autos. The move means levies of 15% will now be applied, down from 27.5%. The BBC's Shama Khalil has the details.
Under the trade deal, Japan pledged to invest up to $550 billion in the U.S. Japanese officials have said the figure represents a combination of investments, loans, and loan guarantees from government-backed financial institutions.
$1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 Naira 534, in Botswana 13 Pula 31, Kenya the dollar is 128 shilling 495, Zambia 23 kwacha 73. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5.6, in Russia 80 rubles 790, India 88 rupee 59, China 7 yuan 14, South Africa 17 rand 67 cents. $1 is 74 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Commodities: gold is at $3,545, platinum at $1,380 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil $66.79 a barrel. That is all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Thank you, Chandugo and the news team. On today's Africa Update asks, the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund in South Africa is on a drive to tackle digital child safety. How should parents and those in authority protect children from harmful online content? You can share your thoughts on Channel Africa's social media platforms at Channel Africa 1 on X and Instagram, at Channel Africa on Facebook, or you can send us your comments and voice notes to our WhatsApp number, which is +2763 406 9126.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
The Nelson Mandela Children's Fund in South Africa is on a drive to tackle digital child safety. Over 70% of children in the country between the ages of 9 and 17 access the internet daily, with the digital world now no longer being a luxury but a necessity. However, with it comes cyberbullying, grooming, harmful content, and algorithmic bias. To speak to us further about this, we are joined on the line by Anzio Jacobs, Project Specialist, African Children's Summit at the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. Mr. Jacobs, thank you so much for taking your time and joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Sacha, and thank you for having me.
Now, what are some of the risks for children online?
I think there are a broad range of risks, but grooming, exploitation, cyberbullying, and access to harmful content are probably the ones that we're most concerned about.
And tell us more about the 6-month initiative that the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund has started.
So the Children's Fund has started a digital safety initiative, not just as a protection mechanism and not just as a way of protecting children, but to empower and groom leadership amongst children, especially in the context of the fourth industrial revolution and AI and increasing digital kind of access. In the next 6 months, what this program intends to do is to bring together researchers, to host multi-sectoral dialogues, and to really have a strong push towards child advocacy within this context. I think you and your listeners would know that our population is younger than it's ever been, and so this becomes increasingly necessary as we move into a digital space where most of our day-to-day activities include some sort of digital access. And even when we think about that digital access, we mustn't forget that even non-smartphones form part of the technologies that sometimes facilitate violence. And so we really want to look holistically at the technological landscape.
And why should Africa's transformation be child-centered? And in your view, how should this be done?
I think we must be child-centered, one, because Africa's demographic is largely children, and they will indeed become our future leaders. Anything that we plan will be experienced by them. And so the implementation of stringent policies around a digital space will ensure future thinking that protects children. I think also it's important that the continent realizes that the risks in this digital space are increasingly deepening, and they're equally deepening inequality in particular. So there is a digital divide, and that digital divide means that some children have access to information while others don't. And why this becomes concerning is that particularly in lower income households, what you find is that parents don't have a good sense of what is going on in the online space, that children that do have access to those online spaces are increasingly experiencing harm. And then you've got the advent of artificial intelligence as well. So previously we've been concerned about who is the person on the other side of the screen that may be causing harm, while more recently we have to think about the movement or the progression of artificial intelligence that is equally capable of harm, and that's a bit harder to manage.
And how should parents and those in authority protect children from harmful online content? What role should they be playing?
I think parents and caregivers alike should really start to open dialogue in the home. Whichever context there is available to have a conversation with a child that has access to technological platforms, we need to start to grow a digital literacy and awareness in our homes, because what some people miss is that even if children don't have smart devices, many children, even without those devices, are still accessing the types of harmful content that are circulating. We need governments to enforce a more child-centered approach to regulation, for government to hold tech companies more accountable. And that work will really start once families begin to engage with AI and technologies and realize that government does have to apply certain pressures and protections, because these protections need to be uniform, especially for those that are most vulnerable. So you're talking about children who are accessing technologies that perhaps don't understand them well enough, and families that are trying to protect those children without quite having sight of what the technologies are doing and what the potential harms in those technological platforms are.
And lastly, what is your call to action?
Our call to action is really to open up across the country in every space possible conversations that think about digital safety and the increasing need for access to technology and technological spaces and technological platforms. The more we speak about them, the more we can guard and put safeguarding rails around them, the more our families will be equipped to ensure that the types of harms that are being experienced are diminished. And I think more especially, and particularly now in South Africa, we do need parents to be a lot more mindful, because digital platforms are facilitating harm such as abduction, such as sexual exploitation, and such as revenge pornography. And so these are critical elements for every South African household to bear in mind, because if we don't have sight of them, we don't know how to protect the children in this country.
We'll leave it there, Mr. Jacobs. Thank you so much for taking your time and talking to us on Africa Update. That was Anzonio Jacobs, Project Specialist, African Children's Summit at the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund in South Africa.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Africa, voici Abedi.
Oui, c'est moi.
Abedi est un passionné de musique dans l'âme. Il a un goût pour toutes sortes de musique et passe ses journées à écouter Channel Africa.
J'aime beaucoup la musique africaine.
Ok. Devinez quoi? Channel Africa veut aider Abedi et les mélomanes du monde entier à découvrir encore plus de musique incroyable. C'est pourquoi Channel Africa appelle les artistes africains à soumettre leur musique. Chers artistes, n'oubliez pas de nous fournir toutes vos informations pertinentes à l'email adresse musique@channelafrica.co.za. Les soumissions sont votre chance d'être entendues, mais elles ne garantissent pas une playlist. Toutes les soumissions seront soigneusement examinées pour voir si elles répondent aux exigences de notre station. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
As you heard before, the promo, the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund in South Africa is on a drive to tackle digital child safety. Now, how should parents and those in authority protect children from harmful online content? Remember, you can share your thoughts on Channel Africa's social media platforms at Channel Africa 1 on X and Instagram, at Channel Africa on Facebook, or you can send us your comments and voice notes to our WhatsApp number, that is +2763 4069126. Remember, we are broadcasting live from Johannesburg on the DSTV channel 802, on OpenView on Channel Africa 628, and you can live stream us on www.channelafrica, as well as on the SABC Plus app and on the Google and Apple Play stores. I am Nhlanhla Mahlangu, standing in for Lulu Gabu.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Sudanese journalist Shamil El-Noor returned to Khartoum 2 years after fleeing civil war. She found her home damaged and the country once busy newsroom looted and abandoned. Reuters' Vanessa Chan has more.
Today, her country and her industry are in ruins. Sudanese print newspapers were already suffering under an economic crisis and the worldwide shift to digital news. but the fighting brought the presses to an immediate standstill.
Some newspapers tried to publish in PDF format, but they couldn't carry on, a situation which is linked to salaries and the halt in advertising.
Known for her coverage of politics and the troubled Darfur region, Eleanor returned to the Sudanese capital this year after the army regained control there.
This restaurant used to be like my office. Since 2020, I work as an independent journalist. I used to come to this place. It is a calm spot and suitable for working.
هو مكان هادئ ومهيأ للعمل بشكل كبير وأصبحت بيني وبينهم.
A friendship developed between me and the staff. I remember them one by one now. I used to sit on this table at the end of the bottom floor, and they used to remember my breakfast and coffee. This is a very sad thing. I really miss it.
يحفظون فطوري وقهوتي. هذا شيء حزين جدا. أفتقده بشدة.
The civil war between the army and paramilitary rapid support forces crushed Sudan's economy, pushed half of the population of 50 million into hunger, uprooted 14 million people, and claimed tens of thousands of lives. Eleanor, who never stopped publishing online, came back to find her home damaged. But she said the deserted and looted newsrooms were even more painful to see. Some 27 newspapers, 40 radio and TV stations, and around 1,000 journalists ceased working, according to the Sudanese Journalist Syndicate. It estimates more than 30 journalists were killed. Digital outlets have sprung up to fill the gap, but most are sponsored by the warring parties or other political interests. And there's a parallel disinformation war on social media. It's left Sudan's traditional media hanging by a thread.
The United Nations has called for additional resources to be dispatched to Afghanistan. This followed a series of recent earthquakes that claimed the lives of more than 1,400 people and injuring thousands more. There has been increasing calls for the international community to release emergency funds as the earthquake have damaged sources of clean water, raised fears of disease, and restricted access to food. The SABC's Bunolo Maribe has more.
Over 1,400 people were killed, with more than 3,000 injured in one of Afghanistan's worst earthquakes on Sunday. Another earthquake shook the South Asian nation on Tuesday, sparking more concerns of further damage and destruction. The disaster comes as the country grapples with a severe humanitarian crisis, which United Nations spokesperson Stefan Dujarric addressed.
We issued a statement which the Secretary General said he is deeply saddened by the devastating loss of life caused by Sunday's earthquake in the eastern Nangarhar province in Afghanistan. He expressed his solidarity with the people of Afghanistan, extended his sincere condolences to the families and victims, and wished a speedy recovery to those injured. He also said the UN in Afghanistan will spare no efforts to assist people, but noted that current humanitarian funding is insufficient to address the needs. He called for additional resources to be urgently dispatched to respond to the tragedy and crisis at hand.
Dujarric says that supplying humanitarian aid remains a top priority.
Our humanitarian colleagues note that an immediate priority needs to include emergency shelter, critical medical supplies, drinking water, and emergency food assistance. The de facto authorities have launched an immediate response, flying hundreds of medevac cases to regional hospitals for care and clearing blocked roads. Humanitarian partners are also seeking ways to mobilize additional air assets to reach those in need. Shelter material and medical supplies are running low.
As survivors grapple with the devastation of the earthquake, they are faced with the immense grief of losing loved ones while also having no place to call home.
Here, people are in need of everything, especially medicine. Shelter is also needed. People have no place to stay. These days, we need everything because our houses have been destroyed. Now, if it rains, where will we sit? Where will the remaining people live? We have no place to stay at all.
Meanwhile, Afghanistan has airdropped commandos to extract survivors from house rubble, with authorities setting up camps to coordinate supplies and emergency aid. I'm Bonolo Maribe, SBC News.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
And that's how we will wrap up today's show. But before that, the Upside team has just walked into the studio, and Debako's on the studio to tell us what we can expect on the show today.
Hello, Nhlanhla, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Can't complain. It's a hot not Saturday. It's a hot Friday.
Yep.
It's one where I should have been wearing shorts, but I didn't get the right approvals from the right people. Next week we'll try again.
We'll try again.
We'll try again next week and make it an international shorts day on a Friday.
I'm sure the weather will permit.
The weather is absolutely permitting. It's quite hot. So here's what's coming up on the Upside this afternoon. We start off with a conversation about why the creator economy cannot afford to repeat the mistakes of the Alubuga scandal. That's the human trafficking scandal that we've been talking about lately. We've been seeing content creators being banned on the platforms, and we can't have that, especially with a lot of people trusting content creators, agencies. They are a form of reliable source for a lot of people. So with such scandals that threaten human lives at times and put their lives at risk, we can't continue to have such scandals plaguing the social media platform, especially when it's such a growing platform on the African continent, creating jobs and sharing information and entertainment as well. Our DJ mix this afternoon is brought to you by T-Man SA, and then later on we are joined by Soa Matrix on the show. It's a Music Friday, and we're going to have a good time on the Upside.
Looking forward, especially the DJ mix.
Yes.
Plus, it's a Friday.
Always look forward to it.
It allows. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And that's how we wrap up today's show. Remember, you can share your thoughts on Channel Africa's social media platforms at Channel Africa 1 on X and Instagram, as well as Channel Africa on Facebook. From myself, Nhlanhla Mahlangu, and the team, it's goodbye.